Welcome to Venture Step Podcast, where we discuss entrepreneurship, industry trends, and the occasional book review. Imagine you're having issues comprehending a complex research paper, lengthy articles, or just in a rush and scramble to get a good understanding of something before you have to do a presentation, or just less than ideal situations where you need to compile lots of different information and consolidated into a quick how-to or breakdown, explain to me like I'm five situation. And there is a way to do that now and have it outputted as a podcast, which is really cool. And it's a project that Google's been working on for a while and has been utilized by myself for a couple of years. And the original project was called Project Tailwind. And Project Tailwind has since evolved with many different names, and they released some new features, and I think it's worthy to talk about. So today we're going to be just exploring a potentially groundbreaking technology and self-learning and learning in universities, and basically giving yourself the opportunity to have your own personalized AI tutor per subject and documents that you upload. And those documents that you upload, the AI will only reference the documents that you upload. So you have less issues with hallucination, which, if you're not familiar, hallucinations are when you ask something and it just like freaks out and says like something crazy, not related, or sends information back to you in a different language. It's happened to me before. So these models do have hallucinations or rejections, but with an LLM that you control all the source material, it has to reference those things. And then in those questions that you ask the AI model, it will send you the sources like, okay, I got this from this document and at this exact point, and it highlights it for you on the webpage. So I would use it to study and things that I was, struggling with. I would use the LLM to find stuff like, okay, I'm not really grasping this topic here. Ask a question. That question has to get pulled from the source material that I'm looking for. Then I would go and read more about it. Well, yeah, we're going to be discussing how this potentially would impact education and dive into this AI audio summary piece. But of course, before we dive in, I'm your host, Dalton Anderson. My background is a bit of a mix of programming, data science, insurance. Offline, you can find me running, but in my side business or lost in a good book. The podcast is in both video and audio format on YouTube. If audio is more your thing, you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. But before we dive into the agenda today, I do have some updates. So last week I had an episode talking about how I was in Japan and I was having some issues finding my place, and luckily I did find my place. Well, I have another trial. I typically, when I go abroad, I like to immerse myself and try to get friends and things like that. And the way that I do that is I play sports. So I try to play pickup sports in that area. If I'm in a big city, there's typically a pickup sports culture. And so I just go and I'll play some games in the league. And in Mexico, I played 3 times a week minimum, probably. And then Japan, I played some pickup volleyball and pickup soccer. And I played pickup soccer, yesterday. And I was playing on this turf field with my turf shoes on, which I haven't really used that much. And the turf is like super sticky. And one of the players on my team like hurt his knee because it was like too much grip, and like it just like his knee buckled, which isn't too good. And then I was playing maybe like 5 games in. I took a shot. The guy blocked the shot, and I received the ball after the reflection, touched it down. And then I went to go past the guy, and he put his leg out like behind his front leg, which you're really not supposed to do. It's more of like a joke thing. He was doing it for real as a tackle, and I was going to step on his leg. And so I try to stop myself from stepping on his leg and like stop my step, but I had a lot of momentum going. And so what happened was my leg got like stuck underneath my body weight, and I just landed on my pinky toe, and it had like a 90-degree, just my whole ankle folded. So I may have broken my ankle or have a severe sprain, which is really difficult when you live in a big city. It's not really built for these kind of things, especially when you don't know the language. So I'm going to have some issues there. So I'm going to figure that out. My current stance is I've got it elevated. I have no means of icing. So the place I'm living at only has a mini fridge, but no real freezer or way to keep things cold. The refrigerator is okay. Like maybe it keeps things at like 50 degrees, but not freezing temperatures. So if I buy ice, it's just going to melt. There is no pharmacy or place nearby. No food places right next to my house. I mean, the closest one is like 800 meters. I'm having trouble booking a place to get an x-ray. And I needed to get an x-ray because my foot is like crazy swollen and it's all purplish now. So I know I've at least torn some ligaments in my ankle. But I can't walk. So like I can't put any weight on my ankle because it hurts. And obviously when you do things like a severe sprain or if it's broken, you don't want to put any weight on it because you could do severe damage during the recovery process. But basically, I can't walk. I have no means of storing ice. I have no means of like easily getting food or water. I have no means of like real like useful transportation. Like I could do Uber, but Uber only takes you to one place, and if you have to go to multiple places, then that doesn't really work out because the metro is too much walking for me and like too much stairs. So I can't really do that. So here I am. And then the next issue that I have is getting an x-ray because everything is in Japanese. And so I tried on my computer. My computer's not converting everything into English. It does it for some websites, but not all. And I typically on my phone, I have a Pixel, and like if I swipe up on an app, I can just like select all the text and I could ask it to translate everything for me. But it hasn't been doing that. It doesn't work with Japanese, but it works with like other languages, just not Japanese for some reason. So I'm trying to figure out like where to go to get an x-ray and get that taken care of before I travel to Korea, because I'm still going to be abroad for another 2 weeks. And then I have another like week and a half in Las Vegas for a conference. And I was trying to run a marathon, and that's done. So that's no longer a thing anymore. I wasn't really trying. I was going to run a marathon. I got signed up for the marathon. Like I have a marathon planned in 2 weeks, but obviously that's scrapped. I was planning on doing like a lot of activities and stuff like that when I was in Korea. I think that's scrapped. There's a whole bunch of things that I'll have to readjust. And when I was in Las Vegas, I planned on renting a car and then going to the Grand Canyon. I think I could still do that, but I won't be able to like hike around. Maybe I could just get out of the car, get a good view of everything, call it a day. I don't know. But yeah, so my ankle might be broken or it's just severely sprained. So that's an update on my travels. That's a big hamper on my my travel plans, but it is what it is. We will keep pushing and we will prevail on the other side for sure. I have no doubt of that. So we're just going to keep pushing. So my plan tomorrow is, since I'm having such a difficult time getting access to these urgent cares and like knowing which urgent care does x-rays and like which hospital does what, I'm going to talk to the U.S. Embassy tomorrow, and hopefully the U.S. Embassy could help me coordinate everything. Because another issue is like there's a rule, not really a rule, but if I try to call a Japanese number without a Japanese phone number, it doesn't go through. So at least that was what my friend was telling me. And I tried it, it doesn't work. And he tried it, doesn't work. And he's lived here for like, not in Japan, but he's lived in Korea for 2.5 years. And he has friends throughout Asia and obviously in Japan. And that's what he was telling me. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. I don't know. I haven't really verified that like on the internet or anything like that. So that could be fake news. I have no idea. So just throwing that out there, like I'm not necessarily skeptical, but I'm definitely not overly confident. I haven't verified that myself. So trust, but verify. So I don't know. Okay, so that was just a general update of where we're at with the LLMs and my personal life. So let's get into the LLMs. Okay, so let me just give a brief background of the Google's notebooks, and I might mistakenly say Juniper notebooks because that's Jupyter notebooks that's like a popular like notebook. Like it uses Markdown and Java to organize your Python code or just code in general. So I might accidentally say that, not intentional, but that's what I'm talking about. If I say that, I actually mean Google Notebook. Okay, but go ahead. So Google's Notebook was originally coded Project Tailwind. Tailwind came about maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And so they've been really sneaky about it, and they haven't really advertised it. And if you knew, you knew, but if you didn't know, there's probably no way you would know. And one of the things that was demoed was you could upload a file, and that file would make a notebook guide. That notebook guide would have like a study guide, a quiz, and they would also have this like AI podcast thing that would create a podcast from the text that you gave it. And I don't really know the limits that you could have. I think when I was doing it, you could only do up to 500,000. I know they increased it. I think you could do 1,000,000 tokens now. I think you could do 1,000,000 tokens, which is a lot of tokens. Like you could upload a lot of big documents, and they could be PDFs, they could be Word docs, they could be websites, whatever. But that's a new feature. So that's not something that's been around for a while. But the other stuff, like you could ask it questions and then it would provide the source material that you gave it, the exact location that where the source material was referenced. And it would give you like 5 different sources. Like, okay, like these are the things that I use to get this answer. Obviously, not every time it needs 5 sources, but if it does need 5 sources, it will show you the ones that it utilizes. If it needs like 15, it's not going to show you all of them. It will just show you the most important. But I would like to, with this overview, I would like to show you the live demo. And so what you're seeing, before I show the video, what you'll see is you'll see the notebook guide, you'll see audio overview, and you'll see this other thing where he drops into this audio overview and he has a conversation with the AI host. That is not a current feature that's available, but it was demoed at a keynote. Okay. So just letting you know. So let's share this. Let's see sharing. Hold on. It's not sharing. Just give me a moment. It's annoying, right? Okay. Share. All right. How's that look? You should be able to see now. Okay. So I'm going to play this video real quick, and you should be able to hear the sound and everything.
Notebook LM. You can load it up with all the materials here on the left. In this notebook, I've been using it with my younger son, and I've added some of his science worksheets, a few slide decks from his teacher, and even an open source textbook full of charts and diagrams. With 1.5 Pro, it instantly creates this notebook guide with a helpful summary and can generate a study guide, an FAQ, or even quizzes. But for my son, Jimmy, he really learns best when he can listen to something. So we've prototyped a new feature with Gemini, and it's called Audio Overviews. Notebook LM is going to take all the materials on the left as input and output them into a lively science discussion personalized for him. Let's take a listen.
So let's dive into physics. What's on deck for today?
Well, we're starting with the basics, force and motion.
Okay.
And that, of course, means we have to talk about Sir Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion.
Ah, yes, the foundation for understanding how objects move and interact.
Ah, yes, this is where multimodal really shines. Now, it generated this audio discussion based on that text material. And what's amazing is that my son and I can join into the conversation and steer it whichever direction we want. when I tap join.
Okay, so this join feature that he's discussing isn't a feature that is currently available, once again. But I think this is the sickest part of this whole product and the idea of it, because you could ask questions, break down complex topics, and get it in the perspective that you want and that you would appreciate, and that you could be, or I wouldn't say that you could easily understand and comprehend.
Hold on, we have a question. What's up, Josh?
Yeah, can you give my son Jimmy a basketball example?
Hey, Jimmy, that's a fantastic idea. Basketball is actually a great way to visualize force and motion. Let's break it down.
Okay, so first, imagine a basketball just sitting there on the court. It's not moving, right? That's because all the forces acting on it are balanced. The downward pull of gravity.
Pretty cool, right?
Insane. So that is what they demoed. What we have now is we have this audio overview feature, and that audio overview feature allows you to listen in to like a podcast of the material that you provide. And I think it's just, I mean, it's something else, honestly. Like, I feel as if it's so human like. When my friend Ryan was over here, he was staying with me. Not staying like at the house, because my house is crazy small, but he's in a hostel, and we kind of did this trip a little bit together. And he was helping me out because I hurt my leg and can't walk. And he was over, and I was messing around with this, prepping it before the episode today. And he was like, "Oh, what podcast are you listening to?" And I was like, "No, this isn't a podcast. This is AI." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can upload a file, and then it'll create this like AI podcast for you, and you can listen to it and like learn what it's about, and then you can ask questions. You'd have to write the questions out right now, but in the future you wouldn't have to do that. You could just ask it via audio." And he was like, "What? That's insane." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was so impressed with it. He's like, okay. What if I gave you a document right now, and would it just do it? Like, what happens? And I was like, yeah, if you give me a document that you want, we could upload it, and then it's got a process, take a couple minutes, and then we could listen to it together. And so we did that. So we have our own that we did. We did an Army podcast. He's in the Army. And let's see, he was super impressed with it. Load audio overview. I guess you have to load it after you close it. It's odd, but it gives you this ability to like listen in to these large documents. And so it breaks down this like 100-page rule regulation document that the Army posted. Let's see, Army. So I'm sharing my screen again, and then we'll just play. So this is AR 670-1.
Have you ever noticed how someone in a sharp uniform like just projects something? It's like they instantly look more put together, more professional.
It's true.
Well, today we're diving into the very detailed world of why that is, at least in the US Army.
Yeah.
We're going deep on the updated AR 670 Ramen, their big rule book on what you wear, how you wear it.
And you can see how it's not perfect. Like it says AR 670-1 ramen. I don't know where they're getting the ramen. Maybe they need regulation. I'm not
and
sure.
Why it all matters.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
way more than just clothes. This document's like the Army style guide. It makes sure everyone's on the same page, presents a united front.
Okay, so there's a whole rule book for that. Like, is it more intense than your average business casual dress code?
Oh, absolutely. We're talking guidelines for everything: active duty, reserves, even what civilians can and cannot wear around the base.
Wow. So let's unpack this. Is it really just
I'm not going to play the whole 11 minutes. We played, 40 seconds. And then you can ask questions. So there's some suggested questions like this is, what are the changes to Army uniform regulations regarding wear, appearance, and insignia? So you click it. You ask this question, and then it's kind of like a chat GPT or a Claude vibe or Gemini, and it's kind of like a chatbot thing. So you put it in here, and okay, so the first thing is policy for breastfeeding and pumping. It clarifies a policy for breastfeeding or pumping in uniform, authorizing female soldiers to wear an optional undershirt while doing so. And then you can click on this, what I was mentioning earlier, source. So source 1. And then right here, it brings me to the exact location that it referenced. So summary of change 670-1, wear and appearance of uniforms and insignia. This major revision dated 26 January 2021 clarifies the policy for breastfeeding and pumping in uniform, authorizes female soldiers who are breastfeeding or pumping to wear an optional undershirt, para 3-6C. And then, you could keep going through. So I think it's super cool and an amazing way to help yourself learn. Let's see, let's stop sharing. And overall, I just think, not every teacher or professor is going to be able to appease every student and their learning style, but you can appease your own learning style now and teach yourself things. And instead of a teacher trying to get every student to comprehend what is going on with a lesson, I mean, obviously that's their job, but you could lay the groundwork of what you really, what the real expectation is. Like, hey, I want you to understand and know how to do X. How you get there isn't really my prerogative. That's what we need from you as a student. And so if you need to use this LLM notebook to talk with these AI teachers, or if like, experimentation is better than you or better for you, or if you're an auditorial learner, like you can use these LLM notebooks. If you're visual, you can do whatever. We could show you. And so it opens up like these different things. Or, you could also say you missed a class, and this is super common. Like you miss a class with the professor, or you miss a class with the, in high school or middle school, whatever. And you could have the notes of like what chapters you went off, like what chapters the teacher went on. And then you can just have a lot of schools now, you're required to have an online textbook. So you just copy and paste those chapters that you needed, throw it in here, and there you go. As long as you're not selling the material and you're using it to learn, a lot of those books under the licenses that they have, as long as you're using it to learn and not using it for profit or anything like that, it's okay to do those things. And so instead of you having to catch up manually or like struggle to get the notes or like take someone else's notes and like copying them over, just say, oh, like what chapters you guys work on? Okay. Then copy and paste those in, make a notebook, or you can make a notebook from the book and then ask it to talk about those chapters and break it down for you. There's a lot of things that you could do. I think this technology is important because a lot of people, and Ryan, my friend Ryan asked me recently, he's like, so like what is AI going to do for me? Like we always talk about AI this, AI that. What really is it doing for me? And I was like, fair question. And I think there is some key concerns like, okay, what really is it doing? Like there's so much money being pumped into AI. Is it providing useful things to the public yet? And the answer is probably not really, not as much. The general public doesn't use AI every day. I mean, besides people that program or people that have repetitive tasks, there isn't that much utilization outside of those groups. And a lot of times if you're using AI, that you're more technical and inclined to do so. There are some early adapters that are outside of those technical areas, but many people that are technical are curious, and obviously there's a lot of talk about these things and these products, so they're trying them out and experimenting. There's a whole bunch of reasons, but I think this is a big step. in the right direction. Like imagine you have onboarding process and you have a whole bunch of rules for your department or whatever, regulations. Instead of having like all these meetings or like providing all these notes that the person has to go through, just send them an LLM notebook link and have them ask questions there. Oh, can I do this? Or how do I request PTO? Or how do I do X? Or, what's this all about? Or you can listen to this audio recording that it's created by AI, and you couldn't really tell. Like if you closed your eyes, you wouldn't really know that was AI. Some words you'd be like, oh, that sounds a little robotic, but for the most part, pretty decent, honestly. And so that this allows like multiple approaches to learning, and I think that the role of AI in the sphere of learning will increase as AI becomes smarter and smarter. I think that the new release of ChatGPT, whatever the new model is, I forgot the name, it came out and said like I think the IQ is like 155 or something like that. And I don't know how legitimate that is because the questions are probably in the training data. It's probably in the training data, and who knows how useful these benchmarks are. And now these models are taking up so much data that they have to like create their own synthetic data to train the model on. Like there's not enough data in the world to keep training the model, or useful data to train the model. So they have to create their own data, their own synthetic data to train the model. So it kind of puts in perspective like how much data they're utilizing to create these models. And so I think this like increases, as I stated, like it increases the role of AI in learning. It allows people to ask questions, in the future with like a mid audio follow-ups, and it will allow people to explore topics that they might not necessarily be able to explore during a lecture or in class, but they can do so outside of class. And maybe a professor or a teacher sets up these LLMs before the semester, before the class term. And these are like, okay, these are the topics we're going to be talking about. See where you're at, ask questions, and we might not be able to get to everything during class, but you can ask these questions to the LLM and you'll be able to see like what's going on and get a better understanding, and you'll be able to see what sources are being referenced and where, and you could read more about it. I think that's like super useful. I don't know. I'm a big fan of this. Like I use it a lot for studying for my insurance exams. It helped me create study guides. It helped me understand topics that I was lackluster in, and just overall definitely sped up my learning and how fast I was able to learn, both with the LLMs and like the study guides it created and the quizzes it gave me. Is overall like a phenomenal tool for learning and self-learning of that. And I think the next thing is like with these audio reports, it's going to allow you to really condense these topics into bite-sized pieces. Like that Army topic, the Army regulation. That Army regulation topic, it turned a 90-page document into 11 minutes. It would take you way more than 11 minutes to read the whole thing and get a good understanding. And I'm not saying that these audio overviews will give you all the important information that you would need to know, but you should probably have a good idea of what the document's about and have a good summary. And then you could dive deeper if you needed to and ask questions. And those answers would be cited, and you could go to those citations within the document, the documents that you uploaded. And then bam, there you go. Then you've got all the answers you need. So it really reduces the time to find things, for sure. Like either the LLM could answer them for you, and if you want more information, the LLM cites where it gets it and it tells you where to go. So overall, that just makes it really easy. Really easy. And so I made another LLM, and we can make one together. So let's do that. So you go over here. Let's do this. I'll share my screen in just a second. Let me just set this up. It's Notebook LM. I've been saying same thing. LM model that we create with our notebook. Okie dokie. So let's share my screen again. Share. All right. So you see that I've done some tests. I have done some insurance stuff. I have some other things. So now we have a new notebook. So you can upload your sources. So it's this PDF, text, Markdown. They updated it, but you used to have to only update from the Google Drive. This is I won't have what I need. Here, I don't know. I don't know what to do here. Let's see. Let's go to Google Drive. I'll just say Google Research or DeepMind Research paper. Yeah, so DeepMind, sorry. So I just forgot the mind part. DeepMind research paper, publications. And I'm just going to go to Alpha Proto. This is the one. Copy this link. Yeah, I forgot that I didn't need to do that. So then you can upload sources. You could do Google Drive. You could do the link. You can copy and paste text. Watch this. So I'm just going to use this URL right here that I got. So this is, let me share my screen so I could share this tab instead. Sorry, I had to cough. Alpha Proto generates novel proteins for biology and health research. It's like a new model that they're using for AlphaFold that helps predict the protein. What is it? The protein binders. And it just gives a better understanding of like how the proteins bind to each other. I'm overall not too confident talking about the topic, but I know this LLM will be, and I could ask it questions. Share this tab instead. So that was where I got the URL. It's a Google DeepMind publication related to their Alpha Proto model that is related to AlphaFold, which is something that we talked about earlier in the podcast. So I'm going to generate this audio overview, and I'm not sure why. Let me zoom in too. I'm not sure why this is so small on my screen. Like it's like cutting off the words right here. I don't really know. But I hope this is not too small. I know there's been some complaints that, hey, when I'm sharing my screen, it's not big enough. So maybe this is better. I'm like plus 500 zoom on this thing. But you can see it does an FAQ, study guide, table of contents, timeline, briefing doc, whole bunch of other stuff. There's my little profile photo for my Gmail. And let's see here. Summary. And that's the notebook guide. So that you don't necessarily need to have that. And so this notebook guide is that thing that collates the audio overview. It has suggested questions that you might want to ask. It can generate these other documents for you. You can add sources. I don't know how many sources you can add. You can add 50 different documents now. Oh, wow. That's a lot. So they upgraded that. It used to only be, I think you used to only be able to upload 10, 50,000 token documents. And so you could upload 10. But the issue is like, okay, like if you wanted to upload like a book, you have to split that book into like many different documents. And that would eat up on your document space because you couldn't upload like a huge document. But they're just saying 50. What is the max tokens for notebook? Oh my gosh. What is the max tokens for notebook? LM. So it says, I don't know. It says 500,000 tokens or 800,000 words is what it's saying. It says 1 million tokens. 1 million tokens. So I was right earlier. I just wanted to verify it. It couldn't hurt. So what I'm really doing is I'm kind of stalling to wait for this thing to upload. But so you could upload 50 documents up to 1 million tokens. I don't know how many pages a million. How many pages? How many pages do you think 1 million tokens is? How many pages is 1 million tokens? Okay, so 32 tokens, 32, 3.4. Huh. Okay, so 24,000 tokens is 48 pages. That's what the estimate is. Okay, is this done yet? Okay, it's done. Cool. That worked out. Okay, so right here we are gonna start playing, and this is about that document that it wasn't even a document; it was a website. They extracted the information from the website, and then made a.
All right, buckle up, because today we're diving into something pretty huge.
Huge might be an understatement.
Okay, you're right. We're going full on deep dive into Google DeepMind's September 5th announcement. You know, the one about Alpha Proteo?
Ah, yes. Alpha Proteo, where do we even begin?
Let's start with the basics for anyone who missed it.
Essentially, DeepMind has created an AI that can design proteins from scratch.
So it's like DeepMind looked at those plain God warnings and said, challenge accepted.
Pretty much, but instead of starting with lightning and a primordial soup, they're using AI to craft proteins custom built for specific tasks.
See, when I first read that, I imagined tiny robots assembling even tinier proteins on some kind of microscopic assembly line.
It's actually much more elegant than that.
Right, because this all builds on their work with AlphaFold, which was already groundbreaking in how we predict protein structures.
Exactly. AlphaFold was about understanding proteins. Alpha Proteo is about creating them. We're talking about designing proteins unlike anything found in nature.
Okay, so before we go any further, let's pause for a second.
All right, I'm going to pause there because, I mean, you don't need to listen to the whole thing. But basically, Alpha Proteo is different than Alpha Fold. Alpha Fold was like understanding protein structures and the interactions between like outside influences that you give to the protein, like medicines or different DNA sequences that you edit. Alpha Proteo is about creating proteins, new proteins to help solve issues. And their Alpha Proteo and Alpha Fold all should enable Google and their partners to enhance their capabilities for drug discovery and drug enhancements. If they go any further than that, I'm not sure, but I do know that they're going to be using it for drug enhancements. But theoretically, they could alter like DNA of animals, plants, those things. And so you could get plants that would have, and this was talked about in the All In podcast. I don't know the guy's name, but he's the scientist guy, and he has like a pharmaceutical company. And he's talking about like growing plants, like growing like these good potatoes or something like that. Like he's got like a licensed potato seed or something like that. But anyways, it's more better explained by him. But basically, AlphaFold would enable us to discover which gene sequences have certain traits and identifying the traits out of the gene sequences. So like say that you had a plant that was drought resistant. Okay. So you would have a drought resistant plant, and then you could take the gene sequence from that one, and then you could have another plant, same species, that was resistant to bugs, like pest resistance. And so then you have those two gene sequences. And what you would do is you would essentially splice the DNA into these different pieces, and you would edit the DNA and create this new gene sequence with those two traits with AlphaFold. Before you couldn't do that, they would have to like breed the two plants, and something like way that he explained it is like really typically like, okay, drought resistant plants come with drawbacks. So do pest resistance. So like maybe pest resistant plants don't taste as good, or they, they're not as ripe or whatever. They take longer to grow. Same thing with drought resistant plants. So you're getting with these gene edits with AlphaFold, what will enable is you'll able to get all the benefits without the negatives. So you have these situations where, okay, like you have A has these drawbacks and negativities associated with them. B has like these issues associated with it. And so instead of having the drawbacks, you just have A plus B instead of having A plus, or instead of having A minus minus minus, B minus minus minus. You get rid of the negative signs, and then you're just like A plus B. And so you're able to get both the traits of those plants without the negativity that's associated with them, which is pretty groundbreaking and can be applied for other things. I don't know if we're going to go down that route, but I do know that we'll be doing so with plants for sure. And I know that we will be using it for enhanced drug discovery, which I think is great, where hopefully you can cure some of these drugs. Like I think one of the brutalist disease, not cure these drugs, cure these drugs with drugs, huh? Not drugs, but diseases. I think Alzheimer's is just like brutal, like a brutal way to go. I would love for us to get a cure for that. Yeah, I've seen that in person a couple times, and it doesn't get any easier. Yeah, it's just rough. That's a rough way to see someone, and for them to see you but not really see you. And yeah, no, Alzheimer's is rough. Like that would be a good one to resolve. I mean, there's many other diseases that need help too, but that was just one that came to mind mid-speak, like mid-talking on the podcast. But what do you think about this LLM stuff? I've been reading on the internet. There's just a whole bunch of garbage, so much garbage on the internet, obviously. But there's just been so much garbage on like YouTube and like the internet and like Instagram. And I guess I'm not surprised, but they're like, yeah, like this is the new way to make $1 million. You just, you copy and paste like text in a year, and then you just publish podcasts, and then those podcasts will get ads, and then those ads will make you money. And if you just rinse and repeat that like thousands of times, you'll make $1 million. And like little do they know that I think to be a top 50, like you're in like the top 60% of podcasts or something like that. If you get, or I think even you're in the top 40% if you get more than 30 downloads an episode. Like you're not, it's not a big deal. You're not going to make money from like, if you're in I'll rephrase it. If you're in podcasting to make money, you're probably not going to make any money. If you're in podcasting because you like it and you enjoy it, and you could do with or without the money, then yeah, I think that you might have success. But for the most part, I'm doing it for fun, and I hope that other people enjoy the things I talk about, and it keeps me disciplined and keeps me interested in learning. But you're probably not going to be making $1 million off of podcasting unless you get an exclusive deal, or you're Joe Rogan, or what is it? Call Her Daddy. I don't know her name off the top of my head. Yeah, those are like the two biggest podcasters. And that's where you get the $100 million deal. But you're not running ads making $1 million. You would have to be doing crazy numbers, like crazy download numbers, to make that much. And no one's gonna pay you top dollar for your ads that you're running if you have a whole bunch of different podcasts. But anyways, like there's posts about like making money via podcasting. Like I literally saw one before this podcast. I was like, are these people being serious? Like they're talking about making $1 million, like publishing these AI audio podcasts, and like just this overall garbage instead of utilizing the tool for like what it's meant to. Like it's just, yeah, I don't know where he'll see it. I mean, maybe it's just clickbait stuff. where people upload these things and then they just get a whole bunch of clicks because people are, interested and want to know. Instead of being like, oh, wow, this is a great learning tool. Oh, no, you can make millions of dollars using this. Not true. Not true. So what do you think about it? Like, do you think that you would utilize Notebook LM? Do you think that you'd want your kid to utilize this tool, or would you suggest it to your peers? Or, is this something you wish you had in college to help you out on those late nights? I don't know. Let me know. And I would appreciate if you tried this out and tried out this audio feature and share your experiences in the comments below. I invite educators to try this out, and students, and see if it helps them integrate this if this technology helps them learn faster or gives them a better understanding of the topic that they need to learn about or discuss in class. And of course, if you like this episode or you like the podcast, can you please like or subscribe? Definitely not going to beg for these things like before and after the episode. Just going to talk about it very, very briefly at the end. It really irks me when people are like, before they even talk about what they're talking about, they're like, please smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. No, I'm not doing that. But of course, like, if you enjoy it, like, please like and subscribe. If you're just passing through, I hope you pass through again, and hopefully I'll pass by you next week, and we'll keep seeing each other, and eventually you'll come and stay for a bit. Who knows? So I have a couple topics for next week. I don't know which one I want to talk about. I think that there is some things I need to discuss regarding this, what is it? Reflection, 70 billion parameter model reflection. Apparently, there were some scientists accusing the company of fraud. So I have to look into that. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't talk about it this week, because I'm trying to let it settle down, because I know in the last couple episodes I've been talking about how it's like the best in class model apparently, and it's like blew the community away, and they were so impressed with it. And then the research paper posted, there was question marks on some of their assumptions they made and the things that they did. And then there was even more question marks when scientists couldn't replicate what they did. That's a big red flag when you publish a research paper and people can't replicate or get close to the results that you're stating. And so apparently they are accused, and I'm careful the words I use here because it's not solid, but there's been some accusations from the scientific community that the reflection paper is a fake, and the model that they're presenting to the public and the results that they are stating is false. They're false. Do I know that for sure? No, I don't know, but I'm going to look into it once everything kind of settles down a bit. So hopefully next week I'll be settled down. I can talk about that. Or there's some other tech stuff that came about. So we keep pushing along with that. But I would like to close out those books on the reflection model. But of course, I appreciate you joining in on this discussion of Google's Notebook LM. I think it's a wonderful product. It has definitely made learning for me easier. I hope that you'll be able to utilize this topic, and you'll be able to utilize this tool, and you will enjoy it. And I hope if you didn't know about it, you're excited. And if you did know about it, maybe you didn't know about this notebook overview feature with the audio overview, and you're quite intrigued and find it interesting. But of course, wherever you are in this world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for listening. And I hope to see you next week. See ya.